Hi, and welcome to another. You have to ask the question. On Yom Tov Sheni of Shavuos and on other Yom Tovim as well, we read the parsha of the Moedim of the holidays that are written in Sefer Devarim in Parshas Re'eh. And we find a very interesting pasuk in relation to the holiday of Shavuos. In pasuk Yud Aleph in Perek Tes Zayin, it says, "V'samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha ata ubincha ubitecha va'avdecha va'amascha v'halevi asher b'sharecha v'harger v'hayasam v'almana asher b'kirbecha b'makom asher yivchar Hashem Elokecha l'shachet shemo sham." So it says, not like the song, but it says, "V'samachta," you should be happy, joyous, in front of your God, Hashem, your God, you and your sons and daughters and your slaves and maidservants and the Levi that are in your gates, and also the ger, the convert, the yasam, the orphan, and the almana, the widow, that are in your midst, in the place that Hashem chose to rest His name. So that's the holiday of Shavuos. We are supposed to be happy lifnei, in front of Hashem. A few psukim later, and when it's discussing the holiday of Sukkot, it says the following pasuk: "V'samachta b'chagecha." You should be happy in your chag. Who should be there? Ata, you, your son, bincha ubitecha v'avdecha v'amascha v'halevi v'hager v'hayasam v'almana asher b'sharecha. Yourself, your son, your daughter, your slave, your female slave, the Levi, and the convert, Yasam, and the orphan, and the Almana that are in your gates. So there's two very glaring changes in the structure of the pasuk. By Shavuos, it says you should be happy v'samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha, in front of Hashem your God. Over here it says you should be happy v'samachta b'chagecha, in your holiday. The second change is by Shavuos, up to Levi, those are the people that are shebisharecha, in your gates. But the ger, yasam, and mana, they're only in your midst, which seems to be a little bit more further away. By Sukkos, everybody is in your gates. The ger, the yasam, the almana, they're all bisharecha. So those are the two differences between the psukim of how you're supposed to be happy on Shavuos and how you're happy on Sukkos. So the question you have to ask is, what changed between Shavuos and Sukkos? These are three regalim, right? Why is there's a difference in the nature? How did we go from being happy in front of God to being happy in our own holiday? Why is it called our holiday at this point? And why is there no difference between the Levi and all these people that are listed before Levi and by Shavuos, where they're in your gates and the ger, yasam, mana are just in your midst, and the ger, yasam, and amana that are now within your gates? How did they get into the gates? What happened? What changed? So if you look, since in all the different books of the Torah, they do have a section dealing with the holidays. In Shemos it has a section, in Vayikra it has a section, Bamidbar has a section, Parshas Pinchas, which we read for the Haftarahs, and in Devarim, as I just mentioned, we have a section that talks about the Yom Tovim, the Shalosh Regalim. In the section in Sefer Vayikra, when it discusses the Yom Nara, the Shalosh Regalim, the three holidays, it has a very also interesting breakdown. First, it discusses the holiday of Pesach. It discusses the holiday of Shavuos, and at the end of mentioning the holiday of Shavuos, the Torah adds in a pasuk that seemingly doesn't have anything to do with the holiday of Shavuos per se. So over there, it talks about the idea that after it talks about Shavuos, it says that you should be careful not to leave over a corner of your field, as the mitzvah of Peah demands, and anything. There's also another two mitzvahs regarding harvesting called leket and shecha, which is things that are gleaned that are dropped, and therefore that's leket, and then you don't go back and pick it up. And shecha is that when you pass by something, that you go back. It's and they're given to the poor, and the poor of the community are allowed to come onto the field and collect these produce in order to as a matter of tzedakah. And then it goes on to talk about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkos, etc. That's what's happening in Sefer Vayikra. So the question that Rashi brings at this point and other Meforshim is, why are they bringing in this idea of it's a mitzvah of tzedakah? What does this mitzvah of tzedakah have to do with anything about the holidays? We don't talk about other tzedakahs during when we're discussing the obligations for the Yom Tov. So Rashi comments over there that they're coming to teach us that anyone who performs the mitzvahs of leket, shicha, and peah, the corner, the leaving over, and not going back for the things that were forgotten, if they do it correctly, it's like they built the base of Mikdash and they brought karbanos. It comes to teach you that it's a relationship with such a high mitzvah of tzedakah. On this point, many people ask, many Meforshim ask, so why is this mitzvah of tzedakah different than any other mitzvah of tzedakah? That the Torah isolates it, that if you do this one right, it's like you're building a base of Mikdash and you're bringing sacrifices. So I heard this from my Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Yochanan Zweig, this part of it, and he said that the answer could be that when you do other mitzvahs of tzedakah, you have a hand in it. You're a benefactor to other people. You're giving tzedakah, which is a tremendous mitzvah, but you get to decide which person you give it to, how much you get to give to. So you are now acting as a benefactor, and you're picking and choosing specifically who I give the tzedakah to. Even if it's a truma, you pick which kohen you give it to, which levi to give it to, which ani to give it to, how much to give each ani, or not to give at all. You have some sense of control, and therefore you have a sense of control. So therefore, it somehow minimizes because you're getting a personal benefit because you're picking who you want. By the mitzvah of shecha, leka, and peah, it's a different type of tzedakah. The Torah commands us to allow us to open up our fields, and anybody can come on. The person you like the most, and the person you may even dislike for whatever reason. You allow your field to be totally invaded by everybody, and anybody who is in the category of collecting tzedakah can take from it. So you have to totally, in a certain way, negate yourself and provide for everyone. If you can do this right, if you can accept this and understand this mitzvah properly, this causes a change. You now are feeding everybody. You're now taking on, in a certain sense, the role that Hashem plays. He's Azon Es Hakol. He feeds everybody. That could be the and that's why this mitzvah is like such a high level. It's like you're building a base of Mikdash, and you are bringing karbanos. This can answer our question: is what happened between Shavuos and Sukkos? You went from being somebody who is partaking in Hashem's bounty to being the one who's providing Hashem's bounty. You become v'samachta b'chagecha. You take ownership of the chag. It's yours. And why did you take ownership of the chag? Because you take care of ata bincha bitecha avascha ba'amascha. You take care of you. The Levi, the ger, yasam, and amana are all b'sharecha. You realize there's a sense of responsibility. By Shavuos, the people you're responsible for, they're in your gates, up to the Levi. Even the Levi you have a responsibility for. But the ger, yasam, and mana, the widow, orphan, and stranger, they're around, and they have a need. So you give them because you have a need. You're a nice guy. You decide which one needs it more. But when it comes to Sukkos, you already understand is that you're responsible for everybody. You have to provide for everybody. You did Shecha, Peh, and Leket properly. Understand that these people are also part of the people you're responsible for. With that, that's the change. That's how you take ownership, and it becomes v'samachta b'chagecha. We're now after Shavuos. We've hopefully had a wonderful Shavuos. This is the time of the year is when we're supposed to be learning that lesson, taking responsibility. So when we're ready, when we go in front of Hashem and the Yom Narayim, the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then also Sukkos, we're able to have a successful judgment. And not only that, take ownership and become a true benefactor where you take responsibility for everybody. May we be zocheh to learn this lesson, be'achdas, especially in this time. You didn't have to take responsibility for one another. We have to help each other. We have to not look at the minuscule differences between us and dismiss each other. With that, we can hopefully be zocheh to a true din and a true geula and anachtas. Thank you very much.